That about the J6 people too, though, right? That's what they're going to say on the other side. That is weaponized also.
I'm not referring to that. I'm talking about the New York trial, and now the Democrats on our side there were some that were gleeful, calling it like now he's a convicted felon and those things, and now for our party we were talking about criminal justice, and we are now talking about second chances, and now all of a sudden now you're like, well, he's a convicted felon and all these things. And now clearly, again, both of those trials, the Hunter Biden one and the trial in New York for Trump, that was politically motivated, and those kinds of charges would have never been brought unless one side could realize that they could weaponize that.
It's his son, after all, and people do have sympathy for that. But a lot of people are angry with him about it. What do you say?
Well, I think it's undeniable that the case against Hunter Biden was really politically motivated, but I also think it's true that the trial in New York for Trump that was political as well too. Now it's that, and in both cases, I think a pardon is appropriate, and I really think collectively, America's confidence in these kinds of institutions have been damaged by these kinds of cases. And we cannot allow these kinds of institutions to be weaponized against our political opponents. And it's very clear both trials were politically motivated and weaponized that on the other.
John Fetterman didn't anticipate a confrontation when he walked into The View, but by the time he left, he was preparing for one, in a courtroom, not the court of public opinion. It started as a typical guest appearance, with Fetterman, the outspoken Democratic senator from Pennsylvania, sitting across from the hosts of one of America's most prominent daytime talk shows.
In a new Netflix documentary series about New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers, he said he's heartbroken about friends and family cutting him off for his controversial political views and conspiracy theories. And a lot of Americans can relate to this, especially after this last election. So, do you think it happens everywhere?
What I recall about him is when he was asked about the COVID-19 pandemic, during the height of the pandemic, when people had lost loved ones, when people's family members were missing from their Thanksgiving table, like my table, he said, "I'm immunized." And as it turns out, he was not. He had done his own research. He has his Google MD like I do. And I think he said he was allergic to something in the vaccine, but he had COVID and he was in a huddle with his teammates. And I think people felt like, wow, you don't care. You're not your brother's keeper.
This could really turn me against
a morality.
Although The View has never shied away from controversy, something went awry this time. The View has a reputation for having loud voices and causing disputes that go viral. Not only in his view, a comment made against Fetterman during a political segment went too far. Behind the scenes, legal teams got to work, and a case was secretly filed. Days later, the news headline said, John Fetterman is suing The View's Sunny Hostin and the show's producers. This is more than just celebrity feuds or political showmanship. Fetterman claims the comment was damaging, irresponsible, and defamatory, and he regards it as a legal violation. Fetterman, known for his unapologetic speech, is now directing same energy on criticizing daytime television. This battle between politics and the media cannot be ignored by either side, and as the case develops, all eyes will be on Hostin and the producers of The View. Whether he's wearing a hoodie on the Senate floor or pushing for prison reform, Fetterman has always embraced controversy. He is not just angered by the comment, he is advocating for something bigger. It ultimately boils down to establishing the line that separates conversation from defamation. Fetterman said that on national television, The View went too far. This concerns more than one person. Fetterman is criticizing hosting and the whole show. Although The View shapes public opinion, Fetterman is suing Hostin and the producers for letting the show spiral out of hand. The issue is not just the comment, but the inaction. Fetterman's case sparks a national discussion by exposing unchecked opinion posing as free speech. What happens if the media's influence is not challenged? The gatekeepers are the responsibility of whom? Fetterman is making this request in court, not privately. The View thrives on chaos, contentious debates, and unfiltered opinions. That same energy is now being investigated by the law as Fetterman's lawsuit targets Hostin and the core tenets of the program. This headline isn't your usual one. In addition to bad press, Fetterman's claims might have serious legal ramifications for The View. Known for her sharp comments, Hostin is now embroiled in a legal dispute. Fetterman attributes the problem of provocation without responsibility to network decision-makers and producers. This lawsuit puts pressure on persons behind the scenes to answer for what occurred and concerns the way discussion shows are conducted. Because of Sunny Hostin's boldness, viewers kept coming back to The View. Though her candor now has the potential to damage her career, she is smart, brazen, and unrepentant. In addition to condemning Fetterman's tone, her lawsuit claims that her remarks really caused harm. Fetterman argues that her comments were defamatory, but the court will decide if they become actionable. Details have not been made public. This places Hostin in a unique position as the target of the criticism rather than the commentator. If the lawsuit is successful, it might change how well-known individuals like her react to controversial talk show discussions. This is not just one comment. Fetterman is forcing the media to think about how it handles political guests and opinions. Because she thinks the precedent this lawsuit sets might have a big effect on the company, Hostin is defending herself. If The View isn't impenetrable, then no media organization is. The producers are not exempt, despite Sunny Hostin being the focus of attention. Fetterman's complaint is not just on Hostin, but also on the producers who decided what was aired. He argues that they made poor editing decisions, failed to intervene, and allowed offensive remarks to remain unanswered. He views this as more than just poor judgment. It's a systematic failure. The lawsuit claimed that The View fostered an environment where serious limits could be crossed with no consequences. Fetterman says this is part of a bigger issue where producers choose shock value above responsibility. This raises the issue of what accountability material producers have when their creations are volatile. According to Fetterman, those who have an impact on public opinion should be careful not to offend anybody. By naming the creators, he is holding them accountable for harmful results and making networks reevaluate how they manage controversial political material. If not The View, then no media source is untouchable. They are also investigating the producers, not only Sunny Hostin. Fetterman's complaint also centers on the producers who approved the piece, in addition to Hostin. He argues that they made poor editing decisions, failed to intervene, and allowed offensive remarks to remain unanswered. He views this as more than just poor judgment. It's a systematic failure. The View fostered a culture where anybody may cross boundaries in real time without fear of consequences, according to the lawsuit. Fetterman says this is part of a bigger issue where producers choose shock value above responsibility. This raises an important issue. What accountability do authors have when their stuff becomes volatile? According to Fetterman, those who have an impact on public opinion should be careful not to offend anybody. By identifying the networks in the complaint, he is requesting that they reevaluate how they handle controversial political information and take responsibility for any negative outcomes. When the media overreacts, who can stop it? Fetterman is speaking up, but he is also showing that he is ready to fight. He claims that the View incident highlights a more significant issue: unchecked media domination with no consequences. He believes that the producers and presenters failed to fulfill their platform's obligations. Public figures must be questioned, debated, and not disparaged on national television. This line has been crossed for Fetterman. He wants the people to understand that media companies cannot ignore damaging comments as being just opinions or hide behind ratings. He is not seeking a peaceful resolution. This lawsuit aims to restore balance and remind media giants that power comes with responsibility and that ignoring it should have consequences. In a time when misinformation spreads swiftly, Fetterman is trying to bring the conversation back to reality. He acts morally but strategically. In addition to defending himself, he is fighting against a culture that encourages loud voices without accepting responsibility for their consequences. Furthermore, Fetterman's case calls into doubt Sunny Hostin. Known for her bold statements, she could have crossed ethical and legal lines this time. Did Hostin have the right to express her views, or was it defamatory? That important question will be decided by the court. This is not just about one event. It's about the power of speech in a city with millions of people. Due to her popularity, Hostin is now at the focus of a debate over what the general public may say and when it may be damaging. The law is now examining her prior strength, her outspoken approach. If the court rules in Fetterman's favor, it will show that even well-known commentators may be held accountable for their too inflammatory statements. In addition to Hostin's comments, the complaint raises concerns about the responsibility of producers behind the scenes. Fetterman believes they failed because they did nothing when things went wrong. Instead, Fetterman claims that filmmakers let the incident go unchecked, exposing him to what he calls a damaging portrayal. The lawsuit accuses them of incompetence for creating an environment that permits such occurrences to go unchecked, in addition to publicizing the remarks. According to Fetterman, this is a sign of a bigger issue facing the media, the predilection for ratings and viral content above impartiality and veracity. He argues that producers are more than just technical specialists and have a moral responsibility to guide the narrative. They must be held accountable in the eyes of the public and the judicial system if they fail. This case might have a major impact on how the network operates. If Fetterman wins or starts a court review, other shows could have to reconsider how they manage information and engage with viewers. It might alter daytime television, with legal consequences associated with behind-the-scenes activities. Beyond a single senator and a particular show, this case highlights concerns about the appropriate balance between defamation and free speech, as well as the repercussions that occur when media outlets fail to recognize the significance of their words. Free speech is essential in a democracy because it promotes debate and progress. But it's hardly a justification for irresponsible comments, especially on websites like The View. When communication results in harm or misinformation, the line between free speech and irresponsibility becomes dangerously hazy. Fetterman challenges this way of thinking and demands accountability when the media overreacts. A single comment may easily damage someone's reputation in today's environment. Instead than trying to ban opinions, Fetterman's lawsuit seeks to set boundaries to prevent individuals from making spectacular headlines. Boundaries serve as a reminder to media workers that power comes with responsibility and that ignoring them might have detrimental legal and reputational repercussions. Fetterman's lawsuit urges the media industry to recognize the impact of content in the real world, especially when it features well-known people, complex topics, and millions of viewers. It's more than simply asking for an apology. At this point, we are forced to reconsider how we consume media. In a world where videos are shared out of context, opinions are misinterpreted as news, and viral moments often replace facts, Fetterman says enough. Instead of just defending his reputation, he is asking the media what we really value, stimulating anger or genuine conversation. And when things go out of hand, who is left to pay the price? By taking legal action, Fetterman is furthering this conversation. Instead of acquiescing passively to media attacks, public figures might choose to defend themselves. This lawsuit may set a new standard, forcing platforms to weigh the long-term consequences above the short-term publicity and pushing producers and broadcasters to think twice about letting emotion take precedence over ethics. Regardless of your stance, Fetterman is spearheading a conversation that might alter how we consume and consider the media. As the case progresses, its implications extend beyond The View. Legal professionals, public figures, and media critics are closely monitoring it. The outcome might change television, politics, and media standards. Fetterman's case raises significant issues. Can the general population hold media firms accountable? What separates a strong viewpoint from a hazardous untruth? These are no longer hypothetical questions. They are at the heart of a judicial battle that might set new guidelines for media regulation and reputation protection. If Fetterman wins, shows like The View may alter the way they prepare presenters, handle guests, and plan debates. Media producers may need to be subject to stricter regulations and re-evaluate how political talks are framed. If the lawsuit is dismissed, it may send the message that well-known people are acceptable no matter how much harm they do. Either way, this case will have a lasting impact on the media landscape. At the nexus of politics, the media, and the law, Fetterman draws a line where others have remained silent. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment with your thoughts. Until we cross paths again.